Welcome to the DNA Podcast, your go-to source for nerd knowledge. I'm your host, Steve Pugh, and joined with me today is two gentlemen from the Blood Bowl community, because that's going to be our subject tonight. I am luckily have, we'll screw that. Take that part off. I have on the show tonight James Luff and Ben Campshore. Did I say that right? I want to make sure I got that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show tonight and talking about something that I think you guys are a little bit passionate about. You guys do some really cool things with it. You guys do some charity stuff that we're going to get into, and you might seem to be the go-to guys for this subject. Just a little bit, you think?
Yeah, you can say that.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's fair.
But before we get into it, let's kind of introduce yourselves. We'll go ahead and start with James. James, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Huge nerd. If it's not Blood Bowl, it's science fiction, fantasy. I started getting into all of this stuff with Dungeons and Dragons back in junior high school, and role-playing games, and then eventually got into the card games. And somewhere along the way, I picked up Blood Bowl. It's one of those miniature games where if you don't want to spend a bazillion dollars or a bazillion hours like Warhammer 40K or something, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that if that's your jam. But Blood Bowl, and ironically, I'm not even a big football fan, but yet I love Blood Bowl. It's just it's a beer and pretzels game. It's a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. 2-3 hours, you play a game and it's a good time. And we managed to build a really good community around it here in Florida, Florida Blood Bowl, and Ben is part of that community. Yeah,
you guys definitely have some really cool things. I like I said, I know you guys do the charities all the time, and that's how we got into communications, is because I saw the charity pop up. I was a part of that Blood Bowl community, saw that charity, and decided to give, and that was for the young child Wolfgang, right?
Yes. Yeah, the Blood Bowl community was celebrating its 10th anniversary, which, man, that makes me feel really old. And, some of the admins, I'm one of the admins on that Facebook group, and we were just kind of kicking around some ideas because everybody loves dice. We're all dice whores, if I can say that, if not edit it out.
No, not even a little bit. No, no, not that. Like, no, we're not. We totally don't hoard dice. No. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Not at all. So we were kicking around the idea of doing some dice. Like, hey, let's celebrate this and do some dice. And I'm like, hey, let's take it one step further and let's see if we could do, support a charity. So we did 2 waves. The first wave we supported. What was it? Mind, which is a mental health organization, I think primarily over in the UK. And there was another organization that we supported as well, and it kind of slips my mind. I'm sure it'll come to me. But then the wave 2, we were looking for something a little bit more personal, and it just kind of all happened at the same time. Where through their Blood Bowl community over in like the Portland, Oregon area, one of their guys had mentioned that the Brickman family, their newborn Wolfgang, needed some medical attention and some long-term medical care, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. So we reached out and was like, hey, would you mind if we could, kind of help raise some money? And I tell you what, the Blood Bowl community really came through. And anytime I've ever been involved, I can honestly say that the generosity and just the people involved in the Blood Bowl community is just beyond words. So yeah, we were able to raise some money for the Brickman family and do some good there. And yeah, that's how we came to kind of start talking.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's awesome to hear. Truly, truly is. And you said, going back to you though, you said you're a little bit of a sci-fi nerd, and we kind of talked off screen. Book of Boba.
I love it.
You love it. Good.
Yeah, it's a very it's very divisive, isn't it?
It is. It really. So there's parts I like, and there's parts I don't like. And my co-host, who he usually is on here with me, he gave me hell because I didn't like the aesthetics being changed with the shiny chrome, powerful go-go Power Ranger like mopeds and everything. Like that kind of like irked me. And he gave me
seemed
hell
very
about
slow,
it.
Didn't they? Like that whole chase scene. I was like, faster.
So
faster.
cheesy. Like it was just messing like the 1970s like bass like car chase scene music in the background. But yeah.
I mean, nothing's perfect, and I look at the whole thing as just the big picture, and the thing that I always ask myself is, would you rather have it or would you rather not have it?
Oh,
And I would take it,
absolutely.
any day of the week. So, there are little nitpicks overall, but to expand the lore, to see the character, Favreau and Filoni, they're great. I honestly don't think they do any wrong. So I'm enjoying it. And the last episode was great. And supposedly, spoiler alert, Mando's supposed to be a cameo in the next episode.
Oh, I would be shocked if they didn't have him in there.
He's
In all
getting a new
honesty,
ship. So it's supposed to be in the next episode, episode 5. So let's hope.
fingers crossed. And as always, in Filoni we trust.
Absolutely.
But on the other side of the spectrum here, we have Ben, and you're, give us a little bit about yourself. And but before you do that, you are not a sci-fi nerd. You're a supernatural nerd.
Yeah,
right?
and I get into sci-fi stuff too. I think I like the older stuff. But a little bit of my game, I will talk about, my favorite things are some like Dune, the Cthulhu mythos, some of the old gritty fantasy. I love D&D, but I love the, first and second edition, whereas, the third and fifth edition kind of come off a little too shiny and new for me.
Shots fired. So you're not looking forward to the sixth edition that's coming out then? Or
I haven't heard about it, but I played fifth edition, so
okay.
We can talk a lot about that with games and stuff too. My thing is newer is sometimes better, and you have to accept that the newest game is going to get the biggest audience. It's going to be the most well-polished version, hopefully, but you might lose some of the things you like about it. And you kind of just have to accept that, my wife and I got her to play first edition when we first started dating, and when fifth edition came out, she's like, why did we ever play first edition? It's just so needlessly complicated. And I'm like, yeah, but you got to have all the, the extra stuff. I don't know.
It's what we, so like I got into D&D in 3.5. I got into 40K, probably fourth or fifth edition is when I got in, because when did Tyranids first come in? Was that, I came in right. So yeah, that was back a while ago, but
I played Tyranids too. So it was a while ago.
Yeah. So I came in the edition right after they came in, was when I got into them. So they weren't the horrific models. Well, I have some of the old school models because I loved how horrifically cheesy they are comparatively how they are now.
Oh, night and day. Yeah, the Gene Stealers were kind of ugly.
My favorite is the Carnifexes.
Yeah.
How
the Hive Tyrant.
Yes. It was so bad, but it was awesome. It was like B horror movie monster bad. So I think that's what attracted me to them. But yeah, no, those are, I'm one of those people, I get it, where, change is bad sometimes, and you don't like change and you fear change because you have grown fond of this nostalgia that is this fandom that you're a part of. So I get that and I respect that. But also, sometimes change is good. Case in point, looking at even 40K, how smoother, more streamlined it's gotten in some cases. But we came here not to talk about 40K. We didn't come here to talk about D&D. We came here to pick your guys' minds about this wonderful and amazing game called Blood Bowl. So before I have you guys get into the history of it, I want to share my little nostalgia with it, like how I got into it. I actually got into it very late in the game. Blood Bowl 2, the video game, is actually what got me into it. Now, I had seen it around, and what finally got me was the teaser for it saying fantasy football. And it made me crack up laughing. I was like, okay, I get it, because it's fantasy football. And I bit, and I got into it, and then I discovered there was this board game, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It's like playing chess, but everybody has a different team, and then your chess pieces can upgrade.
You're hitting on every buzzword, because people ask us all the time, they're like, we don't know what Blood Bowl is. How would you explain it to us? And we're like, well, it's a combination of football, chess, and like Lord of the Rings. That's usually how I explain it.
That's a great description.
Yeah.
So I brought you guys on to talk about it. So I want to get your guys' opinions and, kind of delve us in the history that is Blood Bowl. Who wants to start this off for us?
James would probably know a little bit more about this.
What are you insinuating, that I'm
Is,
older?
is he the
Yeah,
go-to
he's
guy?
an old
He's
man
this-
from the Stone Age.
I mean, he does have the beard going on. That usually like personifies like sage wisdom. I just got
My
like
alter
this.
ego.
I just got this.
So
nasty
there's
neck
there's
beard.
the lore. There's in-game
Yes.
lore that goes into that. I know a little bit about that.
Cool.
But as far as the history of the game, I don't know. He can get a little bit more into that if you want.
So let's start with the history of the game, and then we'll go into some of the fun lore.
All right.
Awesome.
So Jervis Johnson created the game for Games Workshop years ago, back in the, I want to say, mid to late 80s. And it's evolved, just like any Games Workshop game where we were talking about Warhammer or how fantasy became Age of Sigmar, whatever it is, it just evolved over the years. And, it's developed quite the following. It's not just a game played in England, it's played all over the world, Spain, Australia, Canada, the United States, Mexico, and we're seeing that more and more, and it's amazing. So at its core, it's basically fantasy football, like you said. It's more than just you scoring a touchdown against your opponent. You really want to kill his players. You want to throw a snotling or a halfling across the pitch with the hopes of landing him and scoring a touchdown. You want to blitz, your opponent and flatten him and kill that player and send him to the red box. It's a beer and pretzels game, like I mentioned before. And let me say this: the game is not balanced. The game is not fair. The game is you will see people who are like, there's no skill in Blood Bowl. One of our league guys, his name is his nickname is Biscotti. He's a like, we have a chat, Florida Blood Bowl chat. It's kind of like a locker room where we literally talk about Blood Bowl all day, every day. So while we're working, while we're adulting, we talk about everything. And he'll come in there every now and then and be like, yeah, there's no skill in Blood Bowl, it's all luck. And I'm like, shut your mouth. There's a fair amount of skill, because obviously you kind of got to know what you're doing with the teams, and there's a wide variety of teams. What are they up to now? Like I think 26 or more
or something. Yeah, it's pretty high.
Yeah,
28, I think, right?
Because the NAF used to have the road to 24, where you'd play every team and you get a patch. Then they expanded it to add in Bretonians and Khorne, which Khorne is still there, but they changed Bretonians out to Imperial Nobility. I don't think Slan was part of that. So yeah, there's like 27, 28 teams, give or take.
Now, and all these teams, not all of them have actual miniatures that are designed by Games Workshop. They have miniatures that are custom made. You custom make them.
So
teams?
the best way to answer that question is at a certain point, GW made teams for almost all of them. And then they started, when Blood Bowl 2016 came out, the revised version, the latest version, or I'm sorry, 2020 is the latest version. But 2016, they started relaunching the teams, but not all of them. So they made some of the teams of legend.
Okay.
So they're like Amazons, Chaos Dwarves, vampires. There's a few other ones, but the beauty of it, and I'm going to kind of get into some sidetracks here. So there was a time.
To our podcast.
Can I get into a sidetrack really quickly?
Yeah, you do your sidetrack first. Okay.
Well, because I was going to talk about, really quickly with the history of the game. It changed a lot between second edition and third edition, and it added, and I think one of my favorite features of the game is the turnover. And it's a turn-based game. So each individual player. So we refer to our players, the people playing the game, we refer to them as coaches, and then the pieces are our players. But when you screw up a move and your player fails an action, it ends your turn. And that's one of the main mechanics of the game. So when you are playing it, you want to make all your easy actions first, all the carefree and risk-free actions. And then you want to make the harder actions that you have a chance of failing at after that, because they could theoretically end your turn.
And you want to do that all within 4 minutes, give or take.
Yeah.
Like
but that was the unique thing that was added in third edition that made the game what it was, because it wasn't as popular back then. And when they added that, it made it faster paced and go faster, more fun.
Yeah, no, it's a really neat game. I truly do enjoy it. Now, you said this game was made in the 80s. Was this around the time when they were like GW was like experimenting with other games like Necromunda and
and eventually Blood Bowl ended up just like Necromunda and Battlefleet Gothic and a few of the other games that never quite caught on the same way 40K or Fantasy did. They ended up falling under the Specialist Games range, and then there was a while where that kind of went away as well. And as far as GW is concerned, I mean, it's still their IP, but they weren't really promoting or doing anything with the game. So then you bring in, well, the NAF, and for those of you who don't know, it stands for Nuffle Oracle Football. It's an organization based out of the UK, based out of England, and they've basically kept the game alive. So they would track, they would run tournaments and track all your stats and see how you did against this coach or see how you did with this team. And for years, the NAF kept Blood Bowl alive. And in my honest opinion, so I think it's 4 years, they have a World Cup. And there was a World Cup in Lucca, Italy. And there were, I think, I want to say between 12 and 1,400 coaches from all around the world who showed up in Italy to play. And it was shortly, yeah, it's, I mean, you could see it all still out there. The pictures are amazing. There were third-party miniature companies that supported the game. I'm trying to think of like Hungry Troll, Grebo, Impact Miniatures. There's a few of them that kept producing miniatures, even though GW wasn't. But I think the tipping point for Blood Bowl to kind of, you know, come back into focus as far as GW is concerned was the World Cup in Lucca, Italy. I think GW just turned around and was like, wow, this game is still happening. People are still playing it. And then shortly thereafter, it seemed like within a year or two, Blood Bowl 2016 came out, and then the revised version 2020, which is kind of where we're at now. And I think we're like in another renaissance of Blood Bowl, where we have everything. It's a good time to get into the game and the play if you're playing tabletop, because so many more people playing it, you know, worldwide, so many more things you could buy from third-party miniatures. Like there's a Kickstarter like every week for a different team or a different, you know, accessory for Blood Bowl. It's really a great time to be playing the game.
Yeah, and let's be honest, the intro cost for a new player to play this game probably in the $30 to $40 range. You know,
I was gonna say less than $100, depending on how far you want to get into it. Because a team,
it could be as cheap as that. You know?
Yeah, you could get away with a plastic GW team for like $40, $42. I think they retail for. Or if you want to go metal from some of the other miniature third-party manufacturers, you get a team for under $100. A set of dice, you don't need, you know, somebody's got to pitch. It's a really low investment, like Ben said, to get into Blood Bowl versus some of the other miniature skirmish games.
Yeah, so I want to go back to something you said earlier. Like, this is a game that was saved by the fans. Like, there's not very few of those success stories out there. I think one of the other ones that's significant out there is HeroClix, which was eventually picked up after the fandom that is you guys saved their game by continue to play it by hosting all these tournaments. So that's really, truly impressive. And the fact that you guys had people coming from all over the world to go to Italy to this game to play. And you said 1,400, around 1,400 people?
Yeah, I want to say it was around 12 to 1,400. And then another 4 years later, they had the next World Cup in Dornbirn, Austria, which was another huge event. I think they had 1,500 coaches, and they're gearing up for the next. I mean, there's a bidding process. Like, if you put a group together wherever you're at, and you have to bid and, you know, come up with pricing and hotel accommodations and like put together a package to entice people to want to come to your geographical area. And I want to say the next one's coming up in, you know, I keep hearing rumblings that it could be in France. So who knows, honestly, but I know they're very vocal about wanting to host the next World Cup. And considering, you know, another version's come out and even more people, and you were saying before how you got into it through the video game.
Yeah.
I don't play video games, and that's okay. There, a lot of people do. And I am more than fine with people finding the Blood Bowl game, like Blood Bowl 3, everybody's salivating, waiting for that to come out. That's going to just bring more people to the tabletop game, because they're going to play that and be like, wow, this is cool. There's a board game Blood Bowl that this is based off of, and they're going to want to play that.
What's really fun about this game, and truly what got me into it. So first off, I love the idea of not only being able to score points, but beat the living snot out of other players, like, and being able to cheat and like gang my team around another player and then
fouling. Yep.
Yeah, it just piling on. Like, I think my first team I picked was Lizardmen, and then the next one was Dwarves, because, you know, Dwarves are just like, it seemed like it's a classic team. And like the video, like, I know you said you're not a gamer guy, but let me tell you what, it was like these roid raged little dwarves slamming beer steins into the players, and I cried laughing watching it. And
it's great.
I'm like, oh, come on,
The
kill him,
animations
kill
are
him.
amazing. I don't get into for me, Diablo was the be all end all for video games for me.
Fair enough.
And then
Diablo.
Diablo, good times.
Um,
Work all day, stay up all night.
Yeah, so hopefully Microsoft does justice with them now that they bought out Activision
saw
and
that.
Blizzard.
I can kind of get excited behind that. I can actually get a little bit excited by that.
They can't do any worse. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
But anyways, so and another after I got into the game and I looked at the miniatures, I love the characters that are developed in these. It's not your normal looking game. Like when you think on fantasy level, the miniatures look unique. They look like the some of the uniforms, they look like they're half thought. They're like, yeah, I just rather get out here and fight, like the orc players and the troll, which has like just a piece of wooden plank on his chest. I really like the lore of this, and that's one of the things I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about, because they did a really heck of a good job building this lore behind this, fantasy football, even to the point of Nuffle, which I thought was pretty clever, and I thought you guys would enjoy talking about that. So can you explain a little bit about who Nuffle is to the listeners?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So the official lore, as it stands, is that a long, long time ago in the Warhammer fantasy universe, there were orcs and dwarves, and they were having a great battle somewhere. And one of the orcs got tired, and the dwarves got tired, and they all needed a break. And so they were messing around in the dirt, and they discovered these ruins. And a little bit of excavation later, they found a giant dome that turned out to be some sort of ritual theater or something. A couple of the dwarf elders decided to translate some of the documents they found laying around as roughly as they could, and decided instead of finishing the war, they would just try this ritual that was in this temple, the Temple of Nuffle. And they ended up playing the first games of Blood Bowl, and that was kind of where the lore originates. So, and then from then on, people realized that they could settle their conflicts not with these big bloody spectacles, but with battles in these arenas with players. And then the money came in, all the advertisers and all the people wanted a piece of it. So that's kind of where it's a parody of real world sports, where it was a thing, it was created, and then money got involved. But I don't know, I think that's where
and I love it. It's a homage to NFL.
Yes,
it's great.
But it's awesome. And so Nuffle is the deity in which these temples, these great stadiums are erected to celebrate the great deity and worship them by playing Nuffle's favorite game, the Blood Bowl.
He's also the best scapegoat. Why did you lose your match, Nuffle? Why did your dice roll bad, Nuffle?
Nuffle controls all the chaos, the factors. Yeah.
I think pretty much every game has the ideology of there is dice gods, and I think Blood Bowl's the only one that has a name for their god. So I enjoy that. I like that little lore, and it's come up with some creative, unique characters. You guys have not only do you have your players, and can they go from rookie to pro players, but you have your star players, which you spend a stupid amount of money or gold in in-game gold to buy these, and they come up with these very unique, very just whimsy characters, some of them with chainsaws, some of them with like steamrollers. I enjoy that. A
lot of creativity behind the star players.
Like, have you guys ever had any unique experiences with these creative characters?
Absolutely. And I want to add too. So here's the thing that's so unique about Blood Bowl, and I love this about Blood Bowl, because I'm not a miniatures guy at heart. I grew up playing MTG. Loved MTG. It got a little competitive for me, and it got a little expensive for me. And eventually I tried some different things and branched out a little bit. But there's no other game that you go to a tournament and there's actually rules that incorporate special star players. So like we have one guy who's really into all the 80s serial killer movies and like slasher films, and he does tournaments based on those. So maybe you'll get Freddy or Jason or something as a star player. We have other guys who are into other things, and they incorporate one. I guess somebody did one recently. You get a shark, or we played one recently. You get a rabid squirrel. Everyone has a rabid squirrel that you play with on your team. So it's just so cool because those are the tournaments. They're not these serious things where everybody sits down and are trying to beat everyone else. It's a community story that we're building. We're all using these rules to kind of play, and it's a shared experience in that sense.
Beer and pretzels.
Beer and pretzels.
Yeah, emphasis on beer.
But I don't know any other game that's like that. I don't know any other miniatures game or anything like that where you go to an event and it's the variation has so much variation to it.
The 40K community. I'm not picking on 40K. Like a lot of our guys play 40K who play Blood Bowl, but those communities, they're in it to win it, man. Like they're hardcore.
I used to play. I went to I used to go when I lived up in the Midwest. I went to Adepticon, and I enjoyed going to Adepticon. Oh, it's totally got to do it. You got to
Blood Bowl. I know.
You got to do the VIP package. You totally got to do that. You get your money's worth, but I digress. When I
remind me to tell you a story after you finish this.
Done. I'm not an overly competitive person. Like here's the thing I like about Blood Bowl. Even though you are competitive, no matter what, like there is skill. There's no doubt there's skill involved. But dice gods be damned. Like it is what it is. But it's also shorter games too. Like the game length is stupidly short comparatively to like 40K.
Should be between 2 and 3 hours. Yeah, but
yeah,
I've seen some matches that have gone on for a lot longer than they should have, and that's definitely not the norm. I once had two friends who started a match on Saturday, drank a lot of beer, got halfway through it, passed out, picked up the match the next day, and had beer for breakfast. I mean that's epic, but that can't be every week.
Well, and that's kind of the nice thing too is Blood Bowl's got these variants, and we got sevens and Street Bowl, which are probably more like 45-minute to an hour matches.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing to touch on.
Yeah, so if you aren't, and that's how I got into the game actually. So my history of it is I discovered it right before the video game had come out, the first one, Blood Bowl 1. And I was like, I did a little research and I was like, well, this is awesome. And all the rules and stuff were online for free. So me and a buddy picked it up, and it was probably like 2009, 2010 when I still had a lot of time. And we started playing, and we were like, well, miniatures are expensive. We had a bunch of old Mage Knight figures we were playing with. And we're like, well, let's just play this other variant that we found, which was sevens. And it's instead of playing with the full 11s team, you play with 7 players. Instead of playing 16 turns, you only play 12 turns. It's just a little bit of a faster paced game, but you don't really lose a whole lot of the feeling behind it. And we discovered that was really fun. And that was one of the big things that Florida does is a lot of sevens tournaments and a lot of Street Bowl tournaments, which is kind of like very similar to sevens, but the players are all playing in like an alley somewhere. And sometimes people are coming in and out of the buildings and stuff. So it's kind of interesting. But then, if you really want that long experience, then you have something like Dungeon Bowl, where you sit down, you build your dungeon, and maybe you settle in for a few hours, and you have it lasts a little bit of time, depending on how long you want to play.
You have 6 chests, and you got to find the ball, so it'll keep going. So not only are you battling your opponent with throwing blocks, but you got to find the ball. And if you open the wrong chest, it goes boom. You find the ball finally. Now you got to get to an end zone, which could be all the way several dungeon rooms down the way. A game could go anywhere from an hour to 2 to 3 hours, depending on how slow or how fast the opponents are and how lucky you are. But Dungeon Bowl is great.
So just so our listeners know, Dungeon Bowl is a sub game. It is a spin-off game, if you will. And I know you said sevens. Is that the equivalent of Blitz Bowl, or is Blitz Bowl its own beast as well?
Blitz Bowl is totally its own beast.
Okay.
Sevens is just so back when it was under Specialist Games range, they wanted to play Blood Bowl on their lunch hour. Mm-hmm. So they came up with a shortened version of the game where it's a smaller pitch. You have less players. Instead of the standard 11, you have 7, and there's less turns. So you could literally get a game in under an hour.
That's awesome. I like
Yep.
that.
A lot of fun. And generally, I mean, there's either no rerolls or rerolls cost twice as much. So if you want to get good at playing Blood Bowl and not relying on rerolls, sevens is a good way to start. But there's a lot of variance, and Florida Blood Bowl runs through all of them. We like variety. So over the course of a year, we tend to do 2 tournaments a month. And we probably play every version. There's another one called Death Bowl, where it's a massive size pitch, and it's 4 teams on the pitch at the same time, and you could do 1v1 v1 v1, or we did teams before where it's 2 versus 2. There's Beach Bowl. We tried that once. It's like, we tried it. Yeah, there's just a lot of variety in Blood Bowl, and we want to sample it all.
You guys in Florida, you guys are kind of, I not to boost your ego here, but you're kind of like the beating heart of the American Blood Bowl community. I feel like you guys tend to be very passionate and do a lot of stuff
We're
in
vocal.
the community.
Yeah, we put ourselves out there. There's a lot of great communities. Like I mentioned earlier, the Portland, Oregon, our good buddy Weave out there, Jason Weaver, he's got a great community out there. Brian too, he's one of the top Blood Bowl coaches in the US. He's got a great scene out there with his tournaments that he runs. Mark Perry out in Vegas, Scott and Steve, who do the Both Down podcast out in Oklahoma. That was what I wanted to mention to you before when we were talking about
Adepticon.
Adepticon is we do a lot of tournaments in Florida, which is great. And Florida's a pretty decent sized state. We have Jacksonville, we have Miami, Orlando, Tampa, and we play all over Florida, all different game stores. But one of the cool things that we do, and a lot of other Blood Bowl groups do, is the road trip. So right before COVID happened, we were planning it. COVID wasn't even on our radar yet. We rented an RV, and 8 or 9 of us drove from Orlando all the way to Oklahoma to play in a 2-day Blood Bowl tournament out there, Oklahoma and Spiky Cup. It was the best. It was it was just an awesome road trip with great friends. And we played 2 days of Blood Bowl out there, hanging out at night.
I played some of the worst games of my life that weekend, but
yeah, but you still had fun.
It was fun.
Nuffle wasn't on your side. That's what you're telling me here, right? Oh, so I need to get a Blood Bowl community major league going out here in Connecticut, because that's where I live now, and definitely get you guys up here. And I'll show you how it's really done in the the great Northeast of.
So one of the features that we offer is Florida Blood Bowl. If you're organizing a trip down to Florida and you're really passionate about meeting us and you really want to get a game in,
absolutely,
we'll set a tournament up just to accommodate that. We've done that for a few of our people that are out of state people. They come down for vacation and they want to have, we say, hey, you're coming anyway. Why don't you make one day to play a tournament with us? We'll set one up. We can usually, even at the drop of a hat, maybe with a 2 or 3 weeks notice, we can get about 20 people together really easily to do something like that.
See, I'm trying to plan a trip to Disney right now. I'm trying to convince my wife that we can do it. So now I'm like, ooh, can we go to Disney and can I go play Blood Bowl? Because that sounds even more fun now.
Any excuse to play Blood Bowl, and we'll do it.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
That's what that's what keeps me here in this game, in this community. We have just, and not to say, Florida is special, I think, in a way. We have people that my wife plays with us. I know a couple other people whose wives and daughters play with them. So it's very welcoming to women, which I think, can sometimes be a hard thing when it comes to some of these games. Just a really good organization, like you can see with, James' insistence on supporting different charities. And I know he won't mention it, so I am going to. They had a baby shower for me and my wife. We had our first son back in August, and they actually hosted a baby shower. Got one of our, we have a really great painter in our community, Josh Wojcik. He paints really great stuff. He painted a team up and put it up for auction, raffle. And all the proceeds they ended up donating to us to help with baby expenses. And it was just so sweet. And I just can't imagine any other gaming community that would do something like that. It's just, and not, out of nowhere. We didn't ask for it. We didn't necessarily want it necessarily, but it was so cool of everybody to get together on our behalf and just kind of celebrate something we were really happy about.
That's awesome. You know what, James, you sound like you're a pretty swell guy over there. Just boosting your ego over there. That's awesome. No, that true, honestly, that truly is amazing. And it definitely sounds like the Blood Bowl community is a very tight knit, even welcoming. I want to talk about the NAF, but before I do that, I want to ask you, what's the best way for somebody other than hearing this podcast to get into Blood Bowl? What would be your recommendations?
My personal opinion at this point in time, with social media being what it is, I think the Blood Bowl community, the BBC group on Facebook, is probably your best bet. I mean, there's members, God, what are we up to? Like 15,000 people, I think, in that group, something like that, 14,000.
Mhm.
And it's all over the world, and it's every opinion you can imagine. And just everything you could possibly want to know or learn about the game is there.
Is there bias about certain teams? Like, hey, this team's the best team.
There's bias about everything. There's so like I said,
is.
I've been an admin on there for the past couple of years, and every day or every week there's some divisiveness about this, that, or the other thing. And as long as everybody's an adult and everybody could share their opinion without tearing somebody else's down, it's all good. But yeah, you get a lot of you just sort through it and you pick, the good stuff, what's going to help you. But yeah, if you want to throw any question out there, like, hey, I'm thinking about playing vampires. What's the best build for a starting vampire team or for this tournament? And you'll get 20 to 50 answers within an hour.
That's
and
awesome.
you can, and it's all, obviously real time. You reply and somebody usually replies back, and it goes on all day. And as long as nobody says any potty words or everybody, is adult about it, everything's good. That's my opinion. Ben may have a different
my advice too is grow it yourself too. I think I hate to say like I did that. I ended up getting a couple of my local guys I played D&D with, Magic with, and I got them I beat Blood Bowl into them until they finally played with me, and now they love it. So if you have to do that, build it yourself a little bit and try to build that community. And I think that's the thing too, that a lot of people are afraid to maybe step out of their comfort zone and build a community when there's so many out there that exist. But if there is a game, it doesn't have to be Blood Bowl, but that you're passionate about and you want to kind of make it more popular, you just have to put it out there. There'll be people out there that have been secretly loving that thing that'll come out of the woodwork to join.
And definitely, I think the best places, and I say this all the time for pretty much any game, is delving into your friendly local gaming store. Granted, yes, the pandemic is quite a thing still, but collaborating however the best you can, even in these difficult times, is always a necessity.
There's power in that, and most of the FLGS, they will support you. We're very fortunate here in Florida. We have a lot of game stores, and mine, Brevard Game Lounge in Rockledge, Florida, the owner, his name's Don, and he's super supportive with anything we want to do. Tournaments, hey, we want to try Dungeon Bowl, let's do it. Hey, I want to try Blitz Bowl, let's do it. And they have their own store copies. So if you want to try Blood Bowl and you don't want to invest any money into it whatsoever, most of the time the FLGS will have a copy or are willing to, because if you grow that community there, you're only helping them.
Exactly.
Teams, like you were talking, somebody mentioned Mage Knight before. I've seen so many different proxied Blood Bowl teams done with Mage Knight figures or hero clicks. Then there's my personal disfavorite, Meeples. I'm a big hater of Meeples.
I thought you were going to say My Little Ponies, because I have seen a My Little Pony team. But
yeah,
we had one guy do that, along with all the glitter that ended up all over the venues.
There was a Kickstarter. I can't remember which third-party miniature company it was, but they did. I think it might have been RNS Studio. They did My Little Pony Blood Bowl team, and it was popular. It sold really well.
Part of it is the creativity that you can use whatever miniatures you want, really. You don't have to paint them very nicely if you don't
have to
like
paint them at all.
We have some people that take it very seriously. I'm kind of one of those. I like to paint. I like to do my miniatures up. But man, I'll play against anybody. I'll play against chess pieces or whatever you got.
There's two sides to the hobby. You have the hobby side where you like building the teams, you like customizing, doing modifications, you like painting them, you like taking that as far as you can. Then you have the other side of the community who's like, I ain't into that. I'll pay somebody to paint my team. Like we mentioned, Josh Wojcik, He's a terrific painter, and he does a lot of stuff for our community for people. And I can't tell you how many people will just be like, here you go. Here, just charge me whatever you're going to charge me. Paint my star player, paint my team, paint. And they just want to play.
Yeah.
They don't want to get into the hobby side, and that's fine.
Well, this is a unique game too. Sorry, not to cut you off, but this is a unique game too, because not only do you have your regular game, you have a video game, you have books, and you have a comic about like about Blood Bowl. I can't think of any comic about regular football like that other than maybe Archie, but you know, that's a different beast in itself. But you guys, it is a very versatile hobby for a specialty board game even, which is very cool to see. So let's go into, you mentioned this before, the NAF, way back in the beginning of this, and you know, I kind of want to talk about that because this was what saved, you know,
it's what kind of kept it nourished, kept it going. Yeah. You know, where other games may have faded away, fallen by the wayside, been forgotten about. The NAF kept Blood Bowl going through the organization of tournaments. There was so when Games Workshop wasn't really publishing any new rule updates, there was a living rule book that was free to download, a PDF. There was actually a rules committee. Tom Anders was on that committee of Impact Miniatures, a most amazing person you'll ever meet in the Blood Bowl community. Always willing to help out anybody with whatever. But there were free rules that were published. Like I said, all the statistics and everything was kept up with, managing to finding tournaments. I mean, before social media, you had the NAF forum and the Talk Fantasy Football forum, where if you wanted to find out or start something, that's where you would go to be like, hey, Connecticut, I'm looking to start a Blood Bowl league, or hey, Connecticut, I'm looking to start a Blood Bowl tournament. And then that's how people would find you, through the NAF or through this, through the forum. There really wasn't a lot back then. So yeah, the NAF was instrumental in just, you know, keeping Blood Bowl going. And it's such a small thing too. And still to this day, we'll find pockets of Blood Bowl players. They don't even know what the NAF is. They played the game. They kind of are in their own little bubble, and they're not really, they don't know, like, there's a World Cup every 4 years. They don't know about the NAF. They don't know about a lot of this stuff, and that's fine. I mean, they're playing the game. They love the game, but there's just so much more out there. And for the NAF, it's costs like, if you join the NAF at a tournament, it's $5. If you do it online at their website, it's $10. You get a gift. You get a set of NAF dice and a token.
Yeah, so I've got one. It's absolutely awesome.
So for $5 or $10, you know, you get to be a part of that community, and, you know, take it as far as, we have some of our Florida Blood Bowl guys who are we call them sweaty tryhards. They're the guys who know their statistics down to the T. Like, I played you, and I know I played you 8 times, and, you know, I'm like, wow, okay, that's fine. But the NAF holds all those statistics for all the variants that you've ever played, for all the tournaments, all the teams you've ever played, going back years and years and years. So it's amazing. I love it. And I love telling people about it, and I love getting them into it. It's part of what I do.
I love the fact there's so much about this game I love. And I know we keep jumping all over with this, but there's so much to discuss about this game. And it's a small little game. It really is. In theory, on paper, you have a team, you play against another team, and you can, that's it. It's 1v1, or in the most layman's terms. But there's so much intricacy that goes into this game, where it's on a player level to where they, you know, progress, how good skills, how you as a coach go, how you as a, you know, getting sponsors, owning your own football state or Blood Bowl stadium. There's so much that can go into it. You can get it can be a dangerous rabbit hole.
You could just like anything else. I mean, it could be basic. I put together a team that's worth 1 million gold crowns, and I play against you, and that's the end of it. And we have a good chuckle. Yeah. Or you could take it to the next level. Like, all right, let's get a commissioner. Let's run a league. Let's get, you know, 6, 8, 10, 12 guys together, and let's put together weekly schedules. And like, I look at one of our local leagues here, the Jacksonville, the Northeast Florida Blood Bowl League. That's the Jacksonville, St. Augustine area. They've been playing for probably 15 years. And those guys, man, when I look at the stuff that they put together, it's great, but it is in depth, and they are they are they are in it to win it. I mean, there is like, they got their rules and they got this is how we're going to do it. And you can get that intense. Or there's people who just prefer to show up and play a tournament. They could put a Saturday aside, in a month or two from now, show up, play 3 or 4 rounds of Blood Bowl on that Saturday, and don't play again until the next tournament. So it really comes down to how much time do you have? How much do you want to invest? Do you want to go down that rabbit hole? One of the things I'm going to throw in a shameless plug here.
Go ahead.
And it has nothing to do with me. One of the cool things that came out recently, there's a website called TourPlay, and it's international. I want to say it's out of Spain or somewhere. And they built a league tracker that is so good for managing teams and managing skills and managing costs and managing schedules. And it's catching on. Like, I've been promoting it ever since we started using it. And I think we started using it kind of right out of the gate. And it's just every day, like when you log into TourPlay, it'll say, there's a new update. There's a new update. So that tells me that every day they are working on making this better and better and better. Wow. So when you use it, there's a little bit of a fee associated with it, but I'm talking like by the time you convert American dollars over into euro or British pounds or shekels or whatever it is, it's dirt cheap. It's like 30 cents per player per month, something like that. So if you run a league and the league runs for 3 months, it's like $15 a month, which is next to nothing.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the best tools that I've seen come out in a while. And there's always something around the corner.
Absolutely. What kind of features do you think are future endeavors or things that you think is going to happen with Blood Bowl? I know we got Blood Bowl 22 or Blood Bowl 3 coming out video game wise. Where do you see the future of Blood Bowl going?
Ben, you want to comment before I?
Yeah, no, you. No, I think the community is going to grow. I think that I'm not the biggest GW fanboy in the world. I have some harsh criticisms of some of the things they're doing, but I do like that they're releasing cheap, easy to access rules and cheap and easy to access miniatures. I think that's going to benefit the game overall. I like the miniatures sometimes too, I got to admit, but I think that's where it's going to go. I think it is going to grow a little bit. I think we're going to see, I think it's going to end up with, an ebb and flow. I think it's going to be, for some people, it's going to be their main game. I think some people, it's going to be their backup game when they're not playing a big game. And either way, it doesn't really matter. As long as the community stays positive, stays accepting, stays welcoming new people, I think we're going to be okay.
I like that. James, did you want to add anything else to that?
I think it's just going to keep growing. I mean, GW is riding high on the wave of the latest Blood Bowl, and there's new releases, new teams, new miniatures, stuff coming out almost monthly. Then you have all the third-party miniature manufacturers who, there's some people out there who really embrace GW, and there are other ones who do not. And the thing I'll say is that a lot of the third-party manufacturers, wow, the creativity, the design, and it's basically anything. It's like a kid in a candy store. There's like, if you don't like, GW's version of a human team, then there's 3 other ones you could choose from. If you don't like the classic 90s Chaos Dwarves that GW's manufactured and hasn't updated that team in, 30 years, guess what? There's 5 different variants now of a Chaos Dwarf team, and you can get them in metal, you can get them in resin, you could pay, $40 for them, you could pay $120 for them. Like it literally just feels like, I said before, we're in another renaissance of Blood Bowl, and I hope it doesn't go away anytime soon. It just keeps, I see it. We get more and more new players into the game, whether it's because they come into it through the video game, which I'm excited for. I don't play it, but I know that means more people are going to get into it, and eventually that will lead them like a trail of breadcrumbs to the board game. Anything, that everybody's doing just to kind of keep people playing, and everybody wants to keep seeing the game grow. And that's been Florida's biggest thing, is grow the game. We invite people down here, we encourage people to join. We do, one of our guys, his name's Eric Nyberger, formerly of the Gaines Vegas Blood Bowl League, and he's since moved to Orlando. This guy, he goes out of his way after he plays in a tournament to reach out to the 3 or 4 guys that he played that day, and basically like strike up a friendship with them and be like, hey man, it was great playing Blood Bowl with you. How did you get into the game? Hey, this is our next tournament. What do you like about it? Did you have fun? doing those type of things, makes it a community, and it's not just you showed up, you played a game, you went home, and that was the end of it. So the more people that do that, and I see it everywhere. There's very little, whether it be people or groups that are kind of like negative about it. I think for the most part, I would say like 95% of the Blood Bowl community, they are all like-minded, where we want to get people into the game. We want to grow it. We want to see where it goes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll also add this, and kind of piggybacking off of what you said, is we live in the golden age of nerd culture right now. Like, this is a time and age where anything and everything can happen, because case in point, we were literally just talking about Book of Boba 10, 20 years ago. There's no way that Boba Fett fandom would have happened whatsoever.
No, and they tried. There were rumors of a live action Star Wars show for years, and it never materialized.
So knowing that we have that, and the way in nerd culture is a rabbit hole in itself, because once you get into one fandom, it'll trickle you into so many other ones. It's just an inevitability. And then you end up with a basement like mine that has everything from Aliens to Warhammer 40K to Dungeons and Dragons to Hero Quest. So it's seeing stuff like this happen and being able to, and again, I found this by sheer accident of a video game, and it sucked me into it. Is fun, and I'm excited to see what happens and where it transgresses me after that. So I think this is a perfect spot to wrap it up. Gentlemen, did you have any final thoughts? Actually, before that, where can people find you and to locate and find games, as well as, communicate with you guys?
Florida Blood Bowl on the Facebook group. So we have a website, floridabloodbowl.com. I actually, Ben just started a zine, which is we'll have to send you a copy.
Yeah, definitely.
Ben, tell them about the zine.
Yeah, shameless plug.
Let me go back to basics, because I know everything's become kind of social media based, and I love social media, but sometimes I just want to go back to basics and go back to those 90s roots we have in our game. So we ended up publishing a really small zine this month. We're going to try to do it quarterly. We're always collecting content. We got comics and different things that people have submitted. We're really hoping to make it just something that sits on the shelf. It's going to be free, but hopefully, a person comes into their local game store and buys a box of Blood Bowl miniatures, says, "This is cool, I'm going to build these at home." And then somebody says, "Here's a zine that shows you where the tournaments are, where, some articles about stuff, or the leagues." Yeah. So we're hoping to, use something a little bit more analog to try to find some more of our players that don't necessarily go in the same circles on social media.
That's awesome. What's it called?
I think we just call it the Florida Blood Bowl quarterly zine. We keep it pretty basic. It's print only, so we're going to be pretty strict about that. We don't try to keep the quaintness of a printed material. So
we're going to call it Fabucal, going off of the Nuffle initials.
Yeah, it's it.
You call whatever you want as long as you read it, right?
Absolutely. Hey, that's awesome. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I truly do appreciate it. I love talking nerdy hobbies and getting into stuff about it, and being able to talk to some gurus like yourselves about Blood Bowl is greatly appreciated. And I know my listeners definitely appreciate it. And we'll definitely give you guys as many shout outs as we possibly can. Ben, I would absolutely love promoting your guys' magazine, because you know what? I'm all about helping out. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. As always, please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you are listening to us on Apple, please remember to rate and review. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, so please like and follow us at DNA Pod, and on Twitter at NerdDNAPod, and on our webpage, nerddnapod.com. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much. James, Ben, it has been wonderful having you on the show. And as always, thank you and good night.